gone out of my way to not watch those programs. However, when you're involved, you're there, you're talking to players, you're talking to the newsmakers, that's when it gets interesting. The stories within the stories. And if anybody has any concept about journalism, and a lot of them do, okay, that's the challenge when you put together a production along those lines.
Well, you have to be able to come up with a game plan. And you're right. This is my very first Super Bowl media week that I've attended.
Right.
But it's like the draft that I attended in the sense of these are guys entering the league. These are guys who are now reaching the pinnacle of their career to play in a game that most of them will never have a lifetime to play, never get an opportunity to play on the world's biggest stage in the world's biggest game, to play in a Super Bowl. I want to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo for a minute.
Sure.
He played as a backup for Tom Brady in the Super Bowls that he appeared in as a New England Patriot. He didn't see a down. Not one down. Now,
right.
He gets to be a starter. And not only does he get to be a starter, but it's a starter in a Super Bowl, which he had never done.
Right.
So it's going to be quite interesting to see what those dynamics are. And my point is this. You're Jimmy Garoppolo. You're going to be there to play the absolute best game of your life. But what happens after that? How do you live after that? Do you continue playing for another 5, 10, 15 years? Players like Jerome Bettis, who didn't think he was going to get a ring, ended up coming back for one final season because Ben Roethlisberger reached out to him and said, you know what? Come on back. I promise you. Verbatim, I promise you, we will win a title. And that's exactly what happened. Now, when it comes to having a game plan for those journalists that are really listening right now, I've had 6 years in the broadcast media industry. Scott, you've had over 40.
Right.
When you talk about interviewing players and getting to know who they are, players always have a story. They always want to talk about themselves. They always want to promote their brand.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We totally concur with that.
Right.
But what's missing is a story about who they are. How did they get to this point?
Right.
I've spent 6 years trying to get to know who these guys are outside of it. I had Hall of Fame Pitt tight end and head coach for the Chicago Bears, Mike Ditka, on the RudeDog show. And he didn't want to talk about broadcasts. Not interested. Where are you going with this? I'm just trying to follow your career, coach. I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm just trying to kind of get you well-rounded so that way we can start at point A and go all the way to point Z and find out who you are, what you're about, and what you're doing right now. Of course, he's promoting his Ditka cigars, which he has every right to do. It's his brand, his label.
Right.
But I think he joined forces with Jaws, Ron Jaworski.
Right.
Of course, he sent me a video talking about the RudeDog show, and I was completely flattered. So thanks, Coach, for that one. But Coach Mike Ditka didn't want to talk about broadcast because that was not the highlight of his career.
Right.
The highlight of his career is being Buddy Ryan's head coach. I mean, that was his head coach. Regardless, you're a player or not, that's your head coach. Buddy Ryan was a guy who went on to coach the Eagles, and he had his fame there and so on and so forth. My point is that once these guys retire, what is their quality of life?
Right.
Let's recognize where their story is. Let's recognize who they are first. And I think it's about the player first and the athlete second. And I think that is something that's really remiss in today's media. Everyone wants to get these hot takes, or we're off the hot press, or we want the scoop. And this, come on, man, seriously, you really think that's going to sell? Yeah, okay, fine. So a 25-character blurb is going to get you into the Broadcasting Hall of Fame?
Right.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. You're fooling yourself. That's what you think it is. So at the end of the day, this experience for me was absolutely amazing. And I'll be willing to do it every single year because it's about the player. It's about what they're trying to promote, what they're trying to do. And that provides a perfect segue into Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons is now in a contract year. And for those that don't know, contract year is I played my 4 years, you drafted me as a rookie, and now I have an opportunity for other teams to look at me, look at my capabilities. And I can guarantee you this. If Denver is smart, which is kind of elusive to me at times because of all the quarterback picks that have been washouts, or the Emmanuel Sanders trade. I get that trade. That's a totally legitimate. They need another wide receiver, tight end guy, other than Noah Fant to run the ball, especially in the red zone. So they need somebody else, and they're gonna get that guy. My concern is, and I'll go back to Jimmy Johnson as a good reference to that. Make the right picks with the right players, and with those right players, you'll end up putting together what Kyle Shanahan did for the San Francisco 49ers. And guess where they're at? They're in the Super Bowl.
Right.
So when it comes to Justin Simmons, I think a team is going to pick him up. I don't know who's going to pick him up. I know that You have guys like Joe Hayden for the Steelers, who's going to be retiring probably within the next couple of years. Justin Simmons is an obvious. He is already a Super Bowl winner. He's won a Super Bowl. That's something that's eluding Joe Hayden right now. He hasn't won a title yet. But he's definitely getting up there in age. Can he still perform? Yes, but they need much better coverage, especially when you talk about man or zone rather. So Justin, very humble guy, very nice guy. I love talking to him. And of course, my wife wanted to capture a photo with him, and almost like put a flare up to, hey, turn around, I'm right here, take a photo with me. But he didn't. He was about other business, and he wanted to. Again, this is a networking event. For those that have never been to Super Bowl, this is a networking event. Make no mistake about it. So Justin working the room, talking to broadcast entities, trying to get himself out there. And I really appreciate Justin Simmons, and he's done a lot of great things since he's been with the Broncos.
Let me point out a couple things, okay, that I really feel are necessary to bring up, and that being this, okay, we got about 10 minutes to go in the broadcast, and that's this. One of the things I learned early in my broadcasting tenure was a guy by the name of Andy Lascano, who worked over at Channel 7 here in Miami. I'm sure maybe the name rings a bell, maybe it does not. But at any rate, the two things that Andy taught me were outwork your competitors, okay? If you outwork your competitors, you got a puncher's chance. If not, you'll always beat them. Nobody can beat a work ethic. And coming from a guy like me who's a blue-collar guy from Metro Detroit, and I'm proud of it, okay, blue-collar's way to go. But the thing that I incorporated yesterday with you, and you're seeing this once again for the first time, is you've got to be different. I don't care whether or not there's a crowd around all the other 9 million people in there. My philosophy and gut feeling told me, go after Pereira. I want to be different. If you're different, then you generate human interest, and that's what separates you from somebody else. And that's what I've always learned. I'll never stop thinking that way because it's always worked. Why do you stop anything that's always worked? And I feel that I will never do that. Doesn't mean I won't be open to other ideas. I'm not going there. But outwork your opposition, be different, and as a result, okay, then you'll be able to stand out because people will say, well, what other things does he bring to the table? What is the key to any broadcast? Energy, right, and information. And what we do to our broadcast, Rudy, is we bring energy and information. I've stated that on social media as well as you have stated that on social media. What will ultimately go ahead and lead to our ability to succeed long term? One, if I'm a good enough salesman to get you and your wife to move to Southern Florida, I don't know if that'll happen. And if I'm not a good enough salesman or a good enough broadcaster, time will tell. It doesn't matter. But the reality is now what we've been able to understand is in tandem, we're not bragging, but I know that the two of us, as we develop our brand, could be as good as anybody, if not better than anybody, because that's what we have. The charisma, the energy, the enthusiasm, and the experience, and that's a potent combination. One of my favorite lines through the years that got me through college is something that I titled with STP. And what do you think STP stands for? Going to get stumped anyways, but try it anyways.
Probably. I think it has something to do with oil.
Yeah, motor oil. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what my philosophy is? Well, at least you got that part right, RudeDog.
That's
okay.
Right today.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all right. I created this on my own. I should patent that too, but I'll go bankrupt if I patent everything and trademark it all.
Yeah.
STP actually stands for. This is what got me through college at the University of South Florida. Slow down, think, and proceed. For those individuals looking to listen to anything, no, we're not talking about Allie and Gator. We're talking about slow down, think, and proceed. Because anything that you do, if you take those lessons, you apply them, then that could be a very strong combination what to do with. And yes, as Janet will realize, that the more Diet Coke I get in my system, the more dangerous it becomes. But who cares whether it's coffee? But I know one thing I got to tell about the RudeDog, though. He got his first taste of Cuban coffee. What was that like, man?
Well, let's see. After which one? The first one or the second one?
Well, we'll just take it in stages
I lost track
here.
After two. The first one was kind of a jolt. The second one wasn't as much because again, I had already had a cup of coffee in between, so it's not as if I were at that point very unfamiliar with what Cuban coffee does. But I can tell you this much: I probably won't be drinking again for a while, and not because I have to stop, think, and proceed. Is because I just need to stop.
No, slow down, think, and proceed.
Either again,
no, you can't take it away. I'll text it to you all day long, and I'll get you to get it done. But at least he got the motor oil part right.
Yeah, well, it's all about the motor oil. I don't know what happened to STP, but I do know this. Sometimes you just got to stop. Period. But we're not stopping. We're just getting started. But make sure you go follow us. We have a ton of information for you. But I'll start first, I guess, since I got the mic. Literally, go to at Take No Pledges. Go check out Man RudeDog. You can follow me at RudeDog Reyes. This will be posted as well. Of course, for those that don't know, we are on Apple Podcasts and on iHeart Podcasts as well. We like to double dip. Lord knows I like chips and dip a little too much to give up just having one or the other. Got to have both or forget it.
And you can also reach me at Tribune South. Or if you guys want to look for my personal, it's Scoop, and then you have 5 3. So if you got 5 fingers, incorporate 5 3s into the whole equation. So, but yeah, no, at Tribune South is our business account. And the Rude Dog Show and the South Florida Tribune are partners in this venture. And I'm so excited that Rudy Reyes took the opportunity to fly out to the East Coast, because what we were building was fantastic. What we're going to build is going to be nonstop, and I'm excited about the partnership that will expand based on what we've done now versus what we're going to do down the road. And it began, again, for a lot of those individuals that want to try to make good contacts. Rudy and I met on LinkedIn, and then I brought him on as a guest of the Sports Exchange. As the friendship and the mutual respect level built, then obviously Facebook and Twitter, and then the domino effect goes on from there. No, they tried to get me to take a Cuban coffee 9 million times, and I think your wife is probably glad I did do it, because the Miami Beach Convention Center would have needed a new roof if I had that stuff. But then, once upon a time I had it, I knew what I was getting into. You didn't, but since you're a newcomer to the area, we had to indoctrinate you to the Cuban coffee. But no, you can reach me at Tribune South, and you can also follow South Florida Tribune on Facebook as well, and Instagram. So, we have a lot of ways to get a hold of us. Any comments, feedback, or you want to get involved with the program, you got the Rude Dog and the Motor City Mad Mouth, who will trademark that name at some point, if hopefully you people aren't going to try to steal it from me, which you won't, because I'll move faster than I talk. So,
Scott, thanks, man. Always a pleasure. Look, this is a recap of our time at Super Bowl 54. And I think it should be noted here that when you talk to all these players, you get to know who they are. It's about the friendship. It's about the network. It's about recognizing that these guys are more than just players. They're people first. So thanks for tuning in. We definitely appreciate the patronage. Like it, love it, but never leave it, but retweet it.
Yeah, and I'll just close out by saying this. The Super Bowl is a phenomenal place to network, and that's how I've been able to build my relationships over the years, and thankfully it paid off when we were at crunch time. So once again, thanks a lot for joining us, everybody, and we'll be ready for the next episode of
Motorman and Rude Dog. So stay tuned for that one. It'll be posted on Apple Podcasts as well as in the iHeart podcast section. So wherever podcasts are sold or rented, they're free. Go to iHeart. You can go to Apple Podcasts, as they'll be there for you and me.
Yeah, Google, Spotify, add them to the mix as well. So good. Take care, everybody. We'll catch you on the next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.